It is a Friday. We close off the week with another informative and enlightening show as per usual. It is the World Book and Copyright Day commemoration. It is a very important day in Eswatini. The Eswatini National Library Service and stakeholders in the Information and Literacy Fraternity shall commemorate World Book and Copyright Day in the Lubombo region today in the High School for the Deaf. Minenhle Sibanze will join me in studio to talk about the day. She's from the Eswatini National Library Service. Our second studio guest will be half an hour after the 7th hour this morning. Macmillan, who is the main and longest serving sponsor for Brains on the Go, which, by the way, is its season finale today. Mangoba Sihlongonyane from Macmillan will be in the studio to talk to us about this long and very important relationship with Eswatini TV's Brains on the Go in inculcating and amplifying educational content. It's actually a beautiful coincidence and an important day for the education fraternity. That World Book and Copyright Day commemoration coincides with the Brains on the Go season finale. Outside of that, we do have our local news and international news. And because it's a Friday, we have our in-house sports journalist and analyst Fabrice Msonera joining us for the last 10 minutes of the show. Good morning, I'm Sifiso Ngumalo, and this is Kusile Breakfast Show.
Why should we pay our TV license?
The content on our local television is actually more up to date. The industry is enhanced.
It is a criminal offense not to pay your TV license and attracts a fine of 500 emalangeni or 6 months imprisonment.
And the industry is definitely blooming, ladies and gentlemen. So that's what we have for you. But we'll be right back just after the break, and we'll give you more of Miss V.
Pay my TV license. That's why I can enjoy the benefits of an enhanced industry and keep track with recent transformation.
Mommy, who paid for a TV license and what are they paying for?
The owners of TV set and gadget with a tuner like DVD set have to pay.
Pay your TV license at NetBank with the details provided on screen. Or use your cell phone via the mobile money pay. You could also visit your nearest post office and pay there. Pay your TV license via Eswatini Mobile Imali. Any TV device retailer can purchase a license to trade. Pay your TV license and enhance the industry.
Kuphela-ke imizuzu lemine solokubumbene insimbi yesithupha sithathe indaba lapha ekhaya. Umhlonishwani Vunankhulu Cleopas Dlamini uthi kubambisana kwahulumende nabosomabhizinisi labadimele ngulenye indlela yokuthuthukisa umnotho kudelive likhange bahlanyela idimali. Vunankhulu ubekakhuluma ngesikhathi yavakashela imisebenzi yentuthuko kumathapha lefaka ekhathi inkampani yemafutha ekupheka, inkampani leyakhati inatfo taka Coca-Cola kanye ke nesakhiwo imathapha Lifestyle Center.
Emalunga etindlu totimbili tephalamende yelive, indvuna yetemabhizinisi nekutsengiselana mancoba akhumalo, inkampani yahulumende lekhanga abahlanyeli timali Eswatini Investment Promotion Authority ngekuholwa ngumhlonishwa ndvunankulu Cleopas Dlamini bavakashele imisebenti lemithatfu yentfutfuko leyakhiwa bosomabhizinisi labadimele leminye leyakhiwa ngokusebenzisana nahulumende welive kumatsapa. Letindzawo inkampani leyakha emafutsa ekupheka isomi, inkampani leyakha tinatfo taka Coca-Cola iConco kanye nesakhiwo iMatsapa Lifestyle Center. Umhlonishwa ndvunankulu Cleopas Dlamini akhuluma kulo msebenzi uthi lemisebenzi lemithatfu itawudlala indzima lenkulu ekukhangeni bahlanyele timali lapha eveni.
The combined projects, I'm told, are worth 850 million and have created about 890 jobs. The expected number of permanent jobs that will be created after the implementation is 900. That's direct jobs. With the project visited today, it is clear that Eswatini continues to be preferred investment destination in Southern Africa. Of the 850 million investment, 100 million is a new investment and more than 750 is business expansion.
Umphathi wenkampani yahulumende lekhanga abahlanyeli timali Sibani Mngomezulu uthi lemisebenzi lemithatfu itawubona kutfutfuka kwabosomabhizinisi lapha eveni.
As we aggressively market investment and trade opportunities to domestic investors, Your Excellency, we see that eMaswati are growing their entrepreneurial traits. We are seeing eMaswati wanting to venture into new sectors and to take up and assume business risks, which is another encouraging sign for us.
Umhlonishwa ndvunankulu ukhutsate nekubambisana kwabosomabhizinisi labadimele eveni kude live litfutfukise umnotfo ngalokuphelele. Etindzabeni ye-Eswatini TV kubika Samkelisuye Khoza kunasikhumbuzo Dlamini kumatsapa.
Indlebe yesikhulu seyinikete indvuna yetemafa Neil Reichenberg umsebenzi wokusukumisa luphenyo mayelana nekusebenziswa kwetimali enyuvesi yaseSwatini kulandzela ke kutsi kube netinsaya letichubeka nekuvela ekusebenteni kwale nyuvesi. Lokhu kuvele nayihlala indlebe yesikhulu itolo.
Ngesikhathi indlebe yesikhulu ichubeka nemsebenzi wendlu lehloniphekile ngalesine lilunga lephalamende lenkundla yasenzingeni Lutfo Dlamini lisukumise ishukumiso leside satiso motion without notice lesithi indvuna yetiko letemafa neReichenberg ayisukumise luphenyo enyuvesi yelive ngekusebenziswa kwemali investigative audit kulandzela tinkinga letikhona ekusebenteni kwale nyuvesi. Kanti wesekele lilunga lephalamende lenkundla yaseGilgali Sandla Fakudze kuleshukumiso.
Indvuna yetemafa you will assume le responsibility lathunyona ukuthi asekuyobukwa ukuthi la kufakwa imali eMaswati khona kepha kungatholakala ema-audited statements kepha onke lamalanga sebatelekile sebobani labathola le mali because clearly lama-students akayitholi nalaba labafundzisako bakhala nalabo labasebenza kepha laba labaphethe bona ukako bakhanze beme lapha kusho ukuthi kukhona lokundunga santungwane. Leya university for years iyabanjwa iphezulu en kulaMaswati lacashwelayo but ayiyile ka revenue ngoba sekude le mali. Now uliphi live ngiphi institution lenemandla la kangwane ekubamba umthelo wemuntu kepha angawusubmit le
nangabe ke sitawuthula kugelekatika lapha kusho ukuthi simendela phansi umnikati welive lo ngiyana angichancellor wale university masitawuthula siyiphalamende kubonakala ukuthi akuhambi kahle lapha.
Emalunga endlini asemukele lesishukumiso ase aba nemankonyana kulendzaba.
The University of Eswatini has degenerated to levels below average. I-university say insolvent lapho seyikhona khona seyiphila ngemthonselana lewuthola kuhulumende.
Speak uma kude iretex le letawubulala lawa magundwane lalapha noma uhulumende angafaka malini la ngayifaka lapha bangakafi labo losilinda ngeke le university ichubeke.
Le institution siyayidzinga silive and the institution ibalulekile eMaswatini yakha sithombe lesihle nayisebenta kahle.
Indlu yabayisikhulu ibese iphasa lesishukumiso kanti indvuna yetemafa neReichenberg kubheke ukuthi yetfulile lendlu lehloniphekile umbiko ngalendzaba kungakapheli emalanga langemashumi lamathatfu. Etindzabeni ye-Eswatini TV kubika Samkelisuye Khoza kunasikhumbuzo Dlamini ePhalamende.
Sasitawunatsa emanti lahlobile esive senkhundla yasemayiwane ikakhulu emoyeni mangenge nasemasheleleni kulandzela kwekutsi liphini landvunankhulu Themba Masuku letfule ngalokusemtsetfweni umsebenti wekufakwa kwemanti lahlobile lobite tigidzi letine nengcenye temalangeni 4.5 million emalangeni. Lo msebenti bewungenelwe litiko letemcebo waphansi nemandla kantsi usekelwe live leNdiya, live leBrazil kanye neleNingizimu Afrika.
Sive sasemayiwane kasuvala umlomo ngolositolo emanti lesolitholile kulandzela ukuthi seswele emanti isikhathi lesitse kanti lokuhle ukuthi lamanti adonswa ngemasolo lokwelekelela lesive etindlekweni tagesi bangetulu kwenkulungwane nengcenye bantfu labatawuzuza kulamanti 1556 liphini landvunankhulu Themba Masuku lithi kuba nemanti lahlobile kuletsa inhlalakahle kuthuthukise temphilo nemnotfo emimangweni.
This will go a long way in contributing to improved health, well-being, reducing poverty, and contributing towards COVID-19 responses. Without access to clean water, human health is affected and diseases become a burden, affecting income generation, capacity, and pushing vulnerable communities into poverty.
Induna yenkhundla yasemayiwane Majawonke Dlamini ithi tandla tendlula enhloko ngalomsebenzi losowenteke kule nkhundla.
Ala emabhodlela ngalokuphindekile kulandzela ukuthi namuhla sikulomsebenzi omkhulu kangaka. Ngala umagama minister ngithokozile lapho sibuya khona ngoba akhona emagama lekale ngwatholile lekanginika sibindi ukuthi lesive salamayiwane asingalilahli lithemba sitawusitakala cishe songana ngekubambisana netindlunkulu.
Sive sasemayiwane sesivele siyiphatha ngetandla intuthuko njengoba asikatholi emanti lahlobile kuphela kodwa sesiyakhona nekulima tingadze ema-backyard gardens ngenxa yokuba khona kwalamanti. Etindzabeni te-Eswatini TV ngingibonga Simakakule Mayiwane.
Lokhulumela hulumende Alpheus Nxumalo uthi akusilo nani liciniso ukuthi hulumende okuvalile kubanjwa kanye-ke nekumenyetelwa kwaletinye tinkonzo teliphasika ngaphandle kwaleto letimenyetelwe ngemakhosi. Nxumalo uthi sive asingedukiswa imininingwane lengasilo liciniso leseyibonakala yanza etinkhundleni tekuchumana.
Lesithanda ukucondzisa enebekunene kwekuthi yebo kuliciniso kwekuthi na inkosi seyimemetile kubuswati kubuve kungofuthi kukholwa kwekuthi uye lapho inkosi ikhona khona. Kodwa live litakwati lonke kwekuthi lapha kangwane usho leminye imicimbi yelive ungabekisa ngemicimbi yemhlanga ubekise ngemicimbi yencwala ubekise ngento letinenge akuzange nangalinye langa kuphume isimemetelo sekuthi loyile sowonile noma wonke umuntu akabe khona kulowo mcimbi. Uyatibuta ke umuntu wekuthi noma ngawe uyaliva ligama leliphumako leliyamayama lisho njalo yini nawe uyi-journalist worth your salt ungatibuti kwekuthi sekungacala lokhu lomhlana kwende njani. Kuceleke kwekuthi sekude phela lomunye lotawuphindze naye aye eredweni aye ku-TV aye kuphi leningabazini letisemthethweni ayomemetela lenye inkonzo letabe ichubeka kuletinye tindzawo. Lokho kuhambisana nje nenhlonipho futhi bekwente kanjalo kuwo onke emalanga iminyaka leminye ledlulile. Tinkonzo tiyachubeka ngema-Easter abantu bathandazele emasontweni nabo bayatimemetela nesibata basemasontweni nabo futhi isikhumbule newekuthi labanye baphuma emabhoda bagqobe ama-passport bahambe baye esikhwahlandi lapha ema-headquarters emasonto abakhona khona. Alizange livela kangwane nangalinye ilanga nebekunene libavimbele bantu kwekuthi batithandazela bathandazela khona ngema-Easter. Lesi kugcizelelako nalokubekekile kwekuthi seyimemetile phela inkosi kungaba kuhle ukuthi sive siye inkosi yaso la ingakhona ngakhona kuye uyibambisa kuthandaza nekubuka uNkulunkulu.
Mabhalane lomncane etiko letemabhizinisi icebile Nhlabathi uthi emabhizinisi lamancane kumele aqinisekise ukuthi yakhicita imikhicito lebamba emazinga emhlaba kudeke live lichubeke lithengise ngaphandle i-export driven economy. Nhlabathi bekakhuluma ehotela le The George kaManzini nakubuketwa kabusha umthetho longamele emazinga i-regulatory and quality policy yeminyaka wa 2010.
Live-ke niyati ukuthi lathatha sinqumo sokuthi kufanele sibe nayo export driven economy. Lokusho kona ukuthi kufuneka abosomabhizinisi bafakwe babe ngumgogodla wekukhulisa umnotho siwuvuse ngabosomabhizinisi. So lokhu ke kutasisita lokho ukuthi sisebenza kanjani nabosomabhizinisi sibasekela kanjani kangcono ukuze sikhone ukuvusa umnotho. La ukuthi babe khona namhla ukuthi njengabantu libe bayati ipolicy isebenza sebabonile ukuthi inetingcingwana tiphi letidzinga kulungiswa noma letidzinga kungetetelwa ukuze titokhona ukuthi sifeze lokho lesikuhlosile silivela kangwane. Nasinetinvo noma sinemkhicito akunenza ukuthi waluphi uhlobo kufanele bese zingeni lelitsite lelamukelekile even la kangane nangaphandle. Njengalokho ke sihlale sisho sithi tikhona naletinye tindzawo la bangathengisa khona kumcokwa kwekuthi lento nayitfolakala whether yinto lethengiswako noma kuyiservice lona loyitholako abe nesiciniseko sokuthi lento ihlolisisiwe isezingeni lelikahle kutaseke kwenta ukuthi bathembe tinto lesitikhicitako simaswati.
Lucwaningo lolwentiwe inhlangano lebuketa indzaba tekwakha i-Construction Industry Council lohloseke kubuka ukuthi bakhona kanganani bosomabhizinisi baloluhlangothi noma ke bakhona kanganani bosomabhizinisi baloluhlangothi kufinyelela etimalini. Lokhomba ukuthi 93% wabo abati ukuthi kunetikhwama letikhona letasukunyiselwa ke kwesekela abosomabhizinisi labakulomkhakha wetekwakha. Lo mbiko wetfulwe ngalesine hotela le Happy Valley kanti ke ukhomba nebulukhuni labahlangabetana nabo bosomabhizinisi nabafuna imali.
Losabambe kuba ngumphathi enhlanganeni yekwakha i-Construction Industry Council Maxawe Mnisi uthi le nhlangano isemkhankasweni wokusukumisa sikhwama lapho khona tinkampani tekwakha titawuboleka khona imali.
We need to have a construction fund in place. That will then enable contractors, consultants, suppliers to access that fund and be able to do work. But of course, for this coming financial year, we will start by doing a feasibility study into that fund to then inform how we will then create that fund.
Lokho kwekucwaninga kanye nekuthuthukisa amabhizinisi ka-Construction Industry Council noNhlanhla Shongwe uchaza ngebulukhuni bosomabhizinisi labangabetana nabo basafuna imali emabhange.
There's too much documentation that the banks need. They want this, they want that. Even with us as CIC, as we register them, they say the same thing. Why do you want me to come back with the certificate of incorporation? Because even at the trading license, they want that. So you find that in the different offices, we want the same things, and then the contractor becomes exhausted. They go to the bank, they want the same thing. So, yeah. And then also the security problems, you find that the banks sometimes would say they want as collateral, yes, where you'd find that the contractor doesn't have the collateral. Maybe they've already got the tender. They've been awarded, why do you then need collateral as a financial institution? Because the collateral is the project itself, because I'm going to be paid from the project.
Letinye letincomo letentiwe tifaka ekhatsi ukuthi uhulumende akabeke emalanga langu-30 ekubhadala aphindze futhi ashaya imithetho letovimba labanemisebenzi ukuthi bacashe tinkampani tangephandle nangabe tikhona takuleli letingakhona kwenta leyo misebenzi. Etindzabeni kubika Fortune Dlangamandla inamuzi Mkhonta sisezulwini.
Umphathi lomusha wesikolo sase-Waterford kaMhlaba Jackie Otula uthi isikolo sitawuchubeka nekukhicita imiphumela lemihle kutemfundvo nakuletinye tinhlangothi sibambe lizinga lemhlaba. Jackie bekakhuluma emhlanganweni nebetindzaba khona esikolweni sase-Waterford ngalesine ekuseni.
Akhuluma emhlanganweni nebetindlu letindzaba umphathi lomusha wesikolo saka-Waterford kaMhlaba Jackie Otula uthi njengoba sefika nje kulesikolo utawucinisekisa ukuthi isikolo siyachubeka nekukhicita imiphumela lemihle sibambe lizinga lemhlaba njengoba lesikolo satiwa ngekukhicita imiphumela lemihle bafundzi bangena emanyuvesi lamanenge emhlabeni.
I am happy to share that 3 student-led projects from Waterford Club have been successful in their Go Make a Difference applications in 2022-2023. Go Make a Difference is a great scheme available to UWC students to apply for an opportunity to be awarded a grant of up to $1,000 to help them implement a community project.
Kanzi lokhulumela ikomiti lelimelele abafundzi SRC anothela Musia uthi sikole siyabanika konke lokufanele lokutawenta ukuthi kufundza kwabo kukhicite imiphumela lefanele kulesikolo.
Our willingness to push boundaries, challenge assumptions, and to think outside the box.
Sihlalo welibandla lebahleli betindzaba Mbongeni Mbingu udumisela umphasi lomusha ngekwakha budlelwane lobuhle nebetindlu tetindzaba sikolo sisebentele ebaleni.
We're very happy to engage. We're very happy to listen to what needs to be done, to how we can improve, to how we can also give back to the community that we serve. And our role is really just to say, we need to speak more to the people that actually do the work so that we can tell the public what has been done and the public will be better informed.
Lesikolo ke siyahlabana ngemiphumela yaso-ke lemihle nakutemidlalo nekucijisa abafundzi ngekukhuluma phambi kwesive public speaking lokuyingxenye-ke yaso-ke isikolo. Lesikolo-ke sinebafundzi labengcako emakhulwini lasithupha bonke labatihlabani emikhakheni leyahlukene. Etindzabeni kubeka Giyani Msibi ngise-Waterford.
Umchumanisi wemaphoyisa kanye nesive superintendent Phindile Vilakati uthi-ke akasekho emhlabeni somatekisi lodubulwe bosidlani lebekadze babamba inkunzi sitolo lesatiwa ngeSmile Supermarket ekhathi edolobheni laseMbabane. Ngekusho kwemphathi walesitolo Dr. Khalid Patel labosidlani lebebakadze-ke bahlome ngetibhamu bakhale bemuka nemali lelinganiselwa ku-5,000 emalangeni kuya ku-6,000 emalangeni.
Sitolo Smile Supermarket sitholakala esitradini sabetfusile ekhatsi edolobheni eMbabane. Labozidlani bahlasele isitolo nasivula ngalesine ekuseni sekuyoshaya insimbi yesikhombisa. Umphathi walesitolo Dr. Khalid Patel uchaza kabanti.
They just walked in with the guns and they told the till operator that he must go down behind the counter and give all the cash. Around 6,000, between 5 to 6,000, I suppose. We haven't done the cashing up yet, so we don't know yet exactly. They beat both my workers, both of them, they beat him. There are 5. According to the story which I have got, 3 of them were carrying guns.
Umchumanisi wesive kanye namaphoyisa Superintendent Phindile Vilakati ucele eMaswati abambise amaphoyisa ekutfoleni lawasolwa.
Le moto ke bagcine babaleke lebehambe ngayo beyineti inombolo letithi FSD 446 CH i-Toyota Corolla i-grey ngembala silver grey nangima timoto letibitwa kuma professionals kuyadlanga nje lokuganga kwalolu hlobo sitawucinisa sibambisene namasipala kakhulu sitawubuka tinhlelo leti tawusita kakhulu ukuthi sikubambe lokho ngoba bucala njengalobu buyaphathamisa nje nebantfinya labasakhona ukusebenta kahle banekwesaba vele akusiyinfo lenhle. Ngicela ukuthi lo babonako ashaye inhlaba mkhosi emaphoyisa leku-999 noma bo-9 labane singashayela ke naye lobuka emacala esifundzeni sakahoho enombolweni lethi 7606 8493 7606 8493.
Lomunye walabo bebakadze bakhona nakwenteka lobucala longakathandzi kuvela uthi losomatekisi udubuleke ngesikhathi etama kubamba munye kulabo sidlani uthi yena nemufi basetama kuphuca losidlani isibhamu kujike munye walabo sidlani wafika wadubula losomatekisi kanye emgogodleni. Ubese uphuthunyiswe esibhedlela lapho afike washonela khona selashwa. Etindzabeni kubika Fortune Dlangamandla nginamuzi Mkhonto asiseMbabane.
Inhlangano yemoba icala muva Farmers Association yaseMadlanga Mbisi ihlaba inyanza leyo esiveni ngetinswelaboya letebe itransformer lebita imali letinkhulungwane letingemashumi lamatsatfu nesitfupha 36,000 emalangeni. Lesita-ke kuniseleni umoba. Letigangi yatikagcini lapho tiphindze tatsatsa letinye tinsimbi letatiwa ngekutsi ngemamoto. Mabhalane walenhlangano Gideon Nxumalo uthi lesento saletigangi siyibuyisela emuva lenhlangano.
Leti gangi tihlasele ngemgcibelo mhla tingemashumi lamabili nesihlanu kule nyanga. Ngakusho kwamabhalane wenhlangano icala muva Farmers Association Gideon Nxumalo sekwesibili leti gangi tigangela le nhlangano kulandzela kwekutsi nasemnyakeni lophelile ngenyanga yakholwane kwakungisona lesi.
Nanyalo babuyile baphindze bathatha letinsimbi le transformer bahamba bathatha nemamoto ale transformer le pivot lekungiyona yenda njana indaphela kuniseleke sitikhalele lokho ukuthi le tinto leti tiyadula le transformer nje lebe siyithengile bebida abo 36,000 na ucabanga 36,000 nesimo selive sinjena nesimo sekudula kwekulima sinjena kusifaka endlekweni letinkulu lo July besisuka la lebesifuna sicetha ukuvuna khona sibuke ukuthi phela sitawuhlumisa umoba nako sebathatha ke sebayithethe le transformer sekusho ukuthi awusaniseli ngeke umthele emanyolo le vele nase ukukhuluma ke ngesivuno na ungakakwendi lokhu ngesikhathi kusho ukuthi isivuno sakho kutabalide le kuyindzawo lenkulu na ukhuluma nga 48 hectares ukuthi lo 48 hectares ngeke sakunika lutho imali lena lefika kubo 3 million kuyasho ukuthi vele lo nyaka ngeke sisayithola kanti besathi ukuthi utawuvela 3 million avetwa ngile people.
Umalo uxwayise sive ikakhulu balimi bemoba kwekuthi sichaphele ngoba leti gang tibonakala tiphume umkhankaso njengoba atikagcine ecala muva kodwa nasendinda farmers enyokeni nakhona usona lesi uqhubeka wacela eziveni ukuthi kulongabonakala athengisa tinsimbi zide ngalokungekho emthethweni athinze wona emaphoyisa edindzabeni Eswatini TV ngibongosi Magagule ecala muva emadla ngempisi.
Embikweni ngelo qhamuka itiko letasekhaya lelitiko latisa sive ukuthi ama-passport latayelekile lang 32 pages sekaya ngekuphela ngenxa yokukhula kwelinani lalabo labawathathako. Ngakusho kwemibiko lotfunyelelwe ngumabhalane lomkhulu kulelitiko Nhlanhla Nxumalo. Litiko belisolo likhicita lokungenani 800 wema-passport ngelilanga lokungeduluke kwalo 300 lemele lwakhicite ngelilanga. Litiko lithi lisewalinzile ama-passport lang 30 pages kepha-ke ngenxa insaya letitsite solo akefiki ngako ke sive asilungele kuthatha ema-passports lamele ke lafaka ekhathi lawo lango 48 pages labita 300 wemalangeni kanti ke lang 68 pages ubita 500 wemalangeni. Kutemidlalo umceceshiwe welikhethelo lesive lemidlalo wesibhakela Chicks Lukhele wethembisa live laKangwane kuthi ke litawenda kahle kakhulu emidlalweni yema-Olympics eminyaka wa 2024 lotawubanjelwa eveni lase-France emidlalweni wesibhakela. Lukhele uthi nakubukwa emalungiselelo lentiwe live kanye nenhlangano ledlalisa umdlalo wesibhakela eveni anika wonke umuntu olithemba kuthi ke live litawenda kahle kule midlalo. Lukhele bekakhuluma nalomsakato embabana itolo.
Eminyakeni lotako live leFrance kubheke ukuthi lidlalise imidlalo yema-Olympics yeminyaka wa 2024. Umceceshi welikhethelo lesive lemidlalo wesibhakela Chicks Lukhele uthi nakubukwa emalungiselelo lentiwa ngulo live laseSwatini emidlalweni wesibhakela lapho ukapteni welikhethelo lesive Thabiso Dlamini uchubeka namalungiselelo eveni laseRussia. Lukhele unika lithemba live ukuthi umjeka welive utawuphakama sibili kule midlalo.
Mbena uyaba khona umehluko. Ulaba khona umehluko noma ngeke ngisho ukuthi utaba ngakani kodwa nje ngiyathemba ukuthi utaba khona sitawudlala lokusemandleni ethu nalomfana adlale emandleni lase kusemandleni akhe bebhuti yabona ukube bekuya ngami nje ngabe ngithi lomfana impela lapha khona angalali suku nasemina jima angabhayizi nokubhayiza impela bengingajabula kakhulu ahlale afake imandla ngoba phela siwazenza ndabe seyabonakala yapho yathuthuka kulesibhakela impela ukuthi naye sesitholile ekubona ukuthi iRussia idlala kangaka njengoba unathi kahle iRussia idlala kanje neCuba idlala kangaka lo mfana utholeke ichance ukuthi abe nale adlaliswe kahle ngendlela lefanele ajinyiswe kahle le eRussia.
Kolokunye Lukhele uthumise baceceshi kanye nebadlali bamantombazane labadlala lo mdlalo lababonakala kulamalanga benda kahle kulomdlalo.
Uma uNkulunkulu wethu impeleni asinikete imandla ukuthi abantwana bengomantombazane bakhuthale kakhulu la esibhakeleni.
Le midlalo yema-Olympics eminyakeni lotako itawubanjelwa edolobheni leParis kusukela mhla ka-28 enyangeni yeNgci kodwa kube ngumhla ka-8 enyangeni yeNyoni. Endzameni temidlalo ngengiyani Msibi umbiko ohlanganiswe nguFabrice Msonera eMbabane.
Kusele nje umzuzu munye kubugabance insimbi yesithupha nyalo ekuseni sasifike emaphethelweni yekunzabatetfuta lapha ekhaya sitawubahlola emakethe masibuya sikhulumisana nalabaqhamuka e-Eswatini National Library Service mayelana ne-World Book and Copyright Day that is taking place lo muhla.
Pay your TV license quickly and easily with MTN Momo. Simply dial *007 *3# and select option 8 for TV license. Enter your national ID number as your reference and the amount you wish to pay. Then enter your PIN to confirm your payment. Once your payment has been made, you'll receive a confirmation SMS of your payment. If you're a first-time payer, you get another SMS for your TV license. So legalize your entertainment from the comfort of your home. Pay your TV license the easy and convenient way with MTN Momo.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
The Eswatini National Library Service and stakeholders in the Information and Literacy Fraternity shall commemorate World Book and Copyright Day in the Lubombo Region High School for the Deaf today, the 31st of March 2023. Now, the World Book and Copyright Day is the UNESCO's initiative to pay a worldwide tribute to books, the authors who wrote them, and to observe the copyright law. Minenhlen Sibanze joins me now to talk about this day and the importance of reading for learning, pleasure and development. Coach Mlanyoka, sibonge kakhulu ukuthi ukhona kuvuka lo mhlekuseni utawukhulumisana nathi nganalsuku lolumqokana kangaka. I think nje usavusela ababukele emakhaya. My first question for you would be really what is the importance of World Book and Copyright Day?
Okay. A very good morning to everyone, viewers at home. Thank you for having me today. So today we are celebrating the World Book Copyright Day. Well, initially, the actual date for it is on the 23rd of April. It's celebrated worldwide. But then, Tinelaika Eswatini this year, we opted to celebrate it today. Right. Reason being, we normally incorporate the day, we work together well with schools. So because schools will be closed on the 23rd, so we've opted to celebrate the day today.
Okay. Engabe nanitsi nitaketa kakhulu bantfana. Talk to me about the importance ukuthi labantfana bafunze yabona ngenibona bhale ukuthi reading nale pleasure nalobunanzi nje bekuthi bafunze loku inculcate the spirit leso kulabantfana.
Okay, we encourage the spirit of reading more to the kids because it's an early age. So uma umfana I develop at an early age that habit, that child grows up with that habit. So it's easy, it's simple for that child, for that person to grow and be diverse well enough in reading. So hence the reason we work more with the kids. So that when they further up their studies and everything, more of a culture in them. So when the earlier they start, the better for everyone.
Okay, ngichazele kabanti njengalo suku lwalamuhla ukuthi manje yaleli bonjeni ndofike nendeni vele.
Okay, usuku lwalamuhla the program iqala nga-7:30 but abane parade itoqala from Emateta bus rank. They'll be having that parade from there to a high school of the deaf. That's where the whole program is set up. And then when they get there are a lot of activities. Latobe endega, kutaba nabo drama, kutaba nabo storytelling, kutaba nabo poetry session, kutaba nabo culture activities, and competition, of course, for the kids and the participants that will be there today and those that will be joining us today.
So will you be having labantwana labadef nabo as part of the whole program?
Yes.
Mbuto wami ke lapho nsibanza uthi nikwenta kanjani sikube inclusive for them ngoba mina nje nangikhuluma ngekufunza ngiyakhumbula nje bekufunza mina vele tincwadi ngiyabona nje nyalo sengifunza tindzaba ngangifunza tincwadi from as early as grade 5 bekuthiwa kufunze mina up until ngiqede isikole so ngiyadibuta lokho ukuthi umfana lo deaf nikwenta njalo ukuthi kube inclusive ukuthi nabafunza akhona ekulandzela will you have a interpreter
they should have interpreters there today. And then they do have book format, so they are very much well aware of reading as much as you are.
Okay.
So with the help of Le Braille, the ones that they use for reading, Natinja at the library do have certain books, La Braille, that they use.
Okay.
So yes.
So I suppose the thing was lenato the sangbuta ke ngizaba inclusivity vele nyalo when it comes to bantfana laba disabled is how inclusive is it? Does it cover bonke? Or all disabilities?
It covers all disabilities. It covers all disabilities because we do have a certain machine. I think it's called an embosser.
Yeah.
It's the one that translates from the normal original text that you and I can read.
Yeah.
And then it transmitted to the Braille origin. And then we do have computers that helps lama earphones, nalabo enlargement of books, because nalebo visual impaired people are also accommodated. So in terms of FFEL, but then when you enlarge, the person is able to read. So we call those like large books, large print, basically. So yes, it is included. Nalabo labanga koni probably kampakahle. We do have a lift, so we do accommodate them to our space. So the library is a very friendly place for everyone.
I think nosakhuluma nga visually impaired kuba the perfect segue for my next question. I'm aware ukuthi nasikhuluma ngekufunza it also stimulates your imagination.
Yes, it does.
I want you ukuthi ungikhulumise ngalelo point lelo ekutheni likwenda kufunza kuyenda kanjani yonto leyo.
Okay, so for instance, you're reading a book, right? You just got a book, it's a novel or whatever book you have. Say maybe you're interested in Spain. You want to know how Spain is or you want to know how France is. So by actually getting hold of that book that talks about Spain or France, that person is actually able to vision himself like literally in Spain, you understand? So you actually picture the place. So by reading, you're able to travel as well to the certain different places. You actually imagine yourself. You actually see the Big Apple Tower, for instance, because it's well explained in the book.
Interesting.
So by reading, you're able. So yeah, we've basically traveled all over the world, even though we don't have passports. But through reading, we're able to be like be in the places.
Okay, nasikhuluma ke nyalo the types of books that you offer for labanfana. Engabe how diverse are your books or your book collection in terms of ema genres?
Okay, it's the way our books are structured or the system that we use. We cover all subjects. We cover all subjects. We have books from 00 to 900, which you wouldn't really get. But the numbering is the subject. We have your religion, we've got your generals, we've got your physics, you've got your math, you've got your science. So basically every subject is covered. You've got your literature as well, you understand? You've got your religion. So those are like fiction books. And then we've got those are the non-fiction. And then we also got fiction, which are the novels.
Yeah.
Yes, we've got fictions. And then we've got junior picture books for the kids that still do not know how to read. But through the pictures, they're able to tell the story. They're able to imagine what the story really is.
Yeah.
So yes, we do cover most. The same goes for the adults as well.
Okay.
Yes.
Coach, mawubuka mina, I was brought up by a library yasenhlangano. But ngibonile ezingisakhula ukuthi ngathi bantfana abasayi kakhulu library. Lelinani ngathi bese linekwehla. You know, we had that unfortunate event that happened to our library eShiselweni. But ke nje because ngile ngahlala eShiselweni. Bengibuka manje ngoba bengichubeka ngiya nalapha dzaleni bami. Ngiya ngivami bengihlala ke kakhulu vele kule section yebantfana. Ngoba beyivame kuba quiet for that reason. So ngiyadibuta le ukuthi uma nibuka le nombolo iyakhula yini noma vele bantfana kungathi bayibalekela e-libraries banedingcingo manje banema-tablets ngathi siyasilahlekela le culture yokuthi bahambe bathathe incwadi bayifunze.
Okay, I would say the culture is maybe dropping a little bit. But for the schools that are fortunate enough that are very close to towns or say the library is near their surroundings. For instance, in Jelan Baban, we've got a number of learners coming through the library through the help or with working with the schools. Because Tikola can encourage maybe from a certain grade, Masbombo St. Francis and you'll say marks.
Yeah.
They probably say from grade 5, it's compulsory for every student to have a library card.
Okay.
So by so doing, we do have learners coming through and using our library. And having the activities that we offer in the children's section for them to benefit while being there. So
What activities are those?
We've got a number of activities. You should come through.
Yeah, yeah.
So we've got activities. We've got a read aloud day where the learners read aloud. We read together with the pupils.
Okay.
We've got storytelling, and then we're fortunate enough that Friday we've got pupils from Waterford coming through. They offer different activities. So we've got spelling day. So we do have a number of activities just to keep the learners busy while in the library. And we do have a book club for the learners that come through. So basically there are learners that still use the library in a very, very efficient way.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, that's very interesting. Ngiyangijabulisa kakhulu kuva lokho. I think kakhulu lokho ngijabulisako ukuthi niqhamuke nalalisu ukuthi nisebenzisane naletikolo. I think that was very smart of you guys. But I want you to talk to me about copyright as well ngoba I do understand ukuthi lo suku is not just about books and book reading. Sikhuluma about intellectual property as well. I think nongakhanyisela nje umbukele ekhaya ukuthi uma sikhuluma about intellectual property edincwadzini sikhuluma ngani.
So also in this day we try to look at the interest of the writers or rather authors. So we actually, one has to respect umsebenzi walomnye umuntu, hence the copyrights. So it's more like it's more like ownership. Say you've published a book, right? Meaning I cannot then say or call it my own, but I have to acknowledge you as the writer of the book. So and so, say maybe I'm quoting or I'm writing an essay or a research paper. I have to acknowledge your works.
Okay.
So we actually trying to protect their rights so that it cannot really be your own, but acknowledge the works of the person that actually came with that product.
Yeah.
Hence the copyrights.
How new is that intervention ngoba ngiyatibuta nje ngifikile etertiary. Nangifika etertiary I think umasibhala assignments, the biggest thorn aside from writing the assignments bekunglog reference, which is acknowledging wherever you've sourced your information from. Ngiyatibuta lo ukuthi ngiyakhumbula nje nasikhula it wasn't a word lebeyipreachwa kakhulu kithi sibantwana indzaba ye-reference the indzaba of intellectual property. Ngiyabona nyalo ukuthi it's something that you are inculcating kulabantwana. How new is this development kuma library ngoba it's very important coming from someone losafike kwafike kwabalinyeva kuye sekafike kubo tertiary. How new is this development?
It's not very new. I'd rather say it wasn't spoken of that often. Not in a bad way. You went to varsity quite a long time ago, because signable plagiarism.
In high school, there's plagiarism now.
And those schools, in certain schools, of course, saying you submit your assignment, right, your paper. They are able to download it, and we are sure to log. It's like and then it gives a certain percentage. You actually allowed maybe to like 23%. You can like copy and paste, but not the whole assignment. And if it's over that 23%, you actually have to rewrite it. You understand? So it's not really new. It also goes for the art industry. Say ingoma yakho maybe wena watibhalela nje ekhaya. But then because you never had the money or the funds to like get to a point of producing it, of having it to your own. Bese ngiyafika mina mhlambe ngibuya embabane or estegi, I'm well exposed to certain things, and then I take that song as my own. And then lama copyrights, because it was not known ukuthi yakho, I actually gained benefit from them. So ikhona lemithetho lekhona le comply with ukuthi we should acknowledge the authors, the people that own that thing. Should you use it? You should know I'm actually using this. It's actually a poem, Christian Masbom. In it's not my works. Exactly. So people should know that.
No, I think ngiyafunza nje nyalo, and it's something I always say nangiqala ihlelo ukuthi leli hlelo li informative, liyas enlightenisha. I think what I'm learning nje nyalo ukuthi even in high schools nyalo, maybe primaries as well, I don't know, sebaya wende ma assignments la requirisha ukuthi bende an extensive research outside of their own books laba provide on esikolweni, which compels them to ukuthi ba reference so much so sebabamba nabakakwendi logo lokuba preparishela for impilo yase tertiary. I think that could have helped us a great deal, but sibulale mabhodlela sishatandla because that development is finally there within the education fraternity. Coach, I want us to talk about lama activities lo abalile bo spelling bee ubale bo spelling bee wabala bo, what did you call it,
read aloud.
The read aloud, I believe
together.
good thing lokho sibafunza kanye kanye. Yeah, just talk to me about those activities ekutheni abastimulate kanjani labantwana etinzabeni tekutsanza tincwadzi ukuthi stimulate their imagination.
Okay. Kids are very naive. Kids love competition. Say, for instance, let's read a certain book for today, right? So everyone wants to be seen. I want to be heard. I want to be seen as this child who did something good. So layer drive, we do not have enough time, say maybe it's a 30-minute thing. But to go 30 minutes, maybe only 4 or 3 people fortunate enough. But then you want to make sure tomorrow, I want to be seen. So yes, with those little mistakes, but then it also builds up the confidence in a child. We understand. So my activities, it creates like maybe but because of time, but then you probably find there's an interesting child like I want to know what happened at the end. Depending on the kind of story you're reading. So my activities keep them at park, makes them look forward. Mind you, school and you're so a little bit tired, don't read. You cannot really expect a child to I think a library at that teacher likes 10 intensely, I understand. You have to have activities that are a little bit more fun, a little bit more challenging. Naloguti, I'm actually competing with a child from a different school. I want to be the better child. You understand? So ngaloguya namuhla ayexas on the third day like might as well read the book, might as well grab a book, might as well read. You understand? So naloguya probably like but 3, 4, 5 times on the 6th day the child is gonna like what's really in the book. It's more like typing words. You're forcing a child. It's gonna page, but there's gonna come a certain time. What's really happening here? So the interest will automatically develop. Look to song Willem show story like, oh really, you got that story from a book. I also want to read the book. So the book clubs help that. And then when you have the book club, say we have one book with a given specific time. We should be done with the book in 2 weeks. Then after the 2 weeks we'll meet again. So when we meet, we're discussing what is it that you find out in the book and then you explain. So I didn't but I wasn't able to complete the book. But the next meetup I also want to contribute. Understand? So it's quite interesting.
It is an interesting development. I think this is very important. I think from a film there's a certain development with regards to merits abo. So for instance, a certain group of banvana, you have a relationship with Tikola, that's a spec boys you have a relationship with boys banvana labati hlabani ku science. Ingabe niyakwenda into ukuthi labanfana labo nikhone kubahlanganisa niba provide ngetincwadzi the science that will keep those fires burning in terms of the knowledge la acquire shako.
Okay, normally we do not really give, but since we are encouraging the spirit of reading, right? I think your school is fortunate or unfortunate with it the library, but we do see a particularly and provide or give them books. And then on request, we do give, because we do have certain partners. Maybe we've got a library in the Aba session, and then there are certain books that we would give to the school. But on request, it's very much important. On request, no matter just call, we are having a certain competition. Is there anything you can give us to motivate our learners? But the last book day, the one we had last year, we did have books because I see competition World Book Day and the like. So now let's call us presenter. So there are certain things, there are certain gifts.
So there are competition.
There are competitions. You have to be there to see them, but it's good things.
I won't be there, Coach. But I think I can guess.
It's a promotional items are there. Your pens, your stationery, they should be there. They should be there. They should
Yeah.
be there.
Maybe ke lastly i-message nje longafuna kuyibhekisa kubatali ekuqhudeleni bantwana ukuthi bafunze ngoba it's supposed to be an approach le singathi it should be overarching across onke ama stakeholders. Batali are stakeholders as well. Etimpilweni tebantwana tikolo asoshiela ukuthi ine relationship nabo. I think that message ukuthi nabafika emakhaya ngoba phela sekunabo TikTok nyalo. Bantwana are fully immersed in these things lokhanza ukuthi setebati ingqondo tabo, they are focused on the wrong things.
Okay. Firstly, I'd say the reading levels, number one, they're not the same. Khona toqala kufunza seka form 2. Khona toqala kufunza maybe seka grade 3, depending how fortunate and exposed you are to reading, number one. So ngimazi ukuthi umntali maybe loka grade 5 angamrush mhlamba umfana athi mama sola awufunzi noma wena ufunza le maths nale science kuphela, you never read for enjoyment, for pleasure, you understand? So one, it's about getting the habit lakhaya first. For instance, you can have a timetable at home. Would see every 30 minutes, it's a reading time. Be it your novel, be it your newspaper, you understand? But for pleasure, encourage your and I know would see it takes you 3 weeks to make something a habit. So if you can have a 3 consistent week of reading, you're going to be a reader for the rest of your life, whether you like it or not.
3 weeks.
3 weeks. It's a habit.
Yeah,
You can make something a habit out of doing it or practicing over and over for 3 weeks. You understand? So, encourage at an early age. Cool. There's not going to be much work to do. Lombana so more independent, so used to it. Wouldn't I go to from Manzini to Babani in a cab or in a bus? They've got a novel. They're reading. They're exposed. You understand?
Labase Waterford loke babaveta nje ngiyibona kakhulu le culture kubo and ngiyadibuta lo ukuthi ngabe bona bayibambe kanjani ngoba it's very common nana ibhasi yabo lemhlophe levame kuyibona la dolobheni bavame kuphatha incwadi ngisho behla bahamba lamoni umbona umvaphethe incwadi yakhe noma sikhwanyana sakhe so kubo even when they're outside of school it has become a habit just like you said so I think it's something batali lokufuna ukuthi bayiqhubhudele kubantu babo yeah. Coach, thank you so much for joining us. We've come to the end of our interview. Good luck in Saga Kubana Sebendi El Bonjen.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, the Eswatini National Library Service and its stakeholders in the Information and Literacy Fraternity is commemorating World Book and Copyright Day today in the Lubombo Region High School for the Deaf, Lamuhla, the 31st of March 2023. The World Book and Copyright Day is a UNESCO's initiative to pay a worldwide tribute to books, the authors who wrote them, and to observe the copyright law. Mnenhle sibanze-ke somchazele kabanzi ngokuthi batawusebenza kanjani namhla basaqhuba lolu suku nesive saselubonjeni sibafisela-ke inhlanhla basaqhuba umsebenzi lo mkhulu nakangaka sitawubahlola emarket it's 53 minutes after 6 uma sibuya sitawuthatha kade indzaba lechamuka ngaphandle kwalapha event but-ke before that sitawuthatha i-traffic update.
Do you remember the spinning thing? This is us. This picture represents what we did. We were there when coronavirus wreaked havoc in our population. Together with other stakeholders, we formed the first line, controlling the spread of the unknown and unseen enemy of the people. Anxious ourselves, we collected dead bodies countrywide. At the time when no one wanted to come near dead bodies of loved ones, we did care for our fellow citizens. Thank you, the people of Eswatini and teams of first responders.
Minutes after 6 sitibonile-ke itimvula ukuthi tichubekile na itolo kusanje kwalamuhla beline kukhifita nasembabane kutibuta-ke ukuthi ngabe simo semgwaqo sime kanjani ntombenhle fakutse unetimphendvulo-ke kulo mbuto leyo sikubusele mtolo lamhla elihlelweni ngabe imigwaqo ibukeka kanjani lomuhla
ngivusele naye umbukeliwe Kusile breakfast show imigwaqo yelive sesihlolile vele kwathi sephela ukuthi liyana tindzawo letinengi umgwaco umandi. Lesingakukhuthaza nje kubo bashayeli ukuthi bashayele ngalokukhulu ukucophelela kwatise phela ukuthi kuletinye tindzawo imigodi lebese ivalekile seyiphindze ivulekile futhi igcwele wona emanti sithi nje asinakeni kakhulu ngakulolo hlangothi singaze sikhanze singene khona ekhasi emigwacweni. Kanti-ke futhi kwatise phela ukuthi kuletinye tindzawo liqinise kakhulu ukhanza sekunananga emanti lajubako emgwacweni nalawo la lekemako kulolitiyela lawo manti lawo-ke aliyingoti kakhulu kuye umshayeli nakahamba ngesitubane lelisetulu. Sithi nje nangabe ubona emanti ajuba noma emile asilinciphise litubane ngoba lawo manti lawo agcine amemukile umshayeli imotolo. Tindzawo letinengi-ke inkhungu ikhansa phansi nje bashayeli la khona kunenkhungu khona abakhanyise wona emalambula amakhulu ukuze ukuthi bakhone kubonana nalabanye bashayeli batawuphepha basasebenzisa wona umgwaco. Emadolobha elive ahloliwe omane tibane temgwaco ekhasi edolobheni eMbabane leti lapha eMangwaneni atisebenzi nyalo ekseni kanti sitalati lesingusomhlolo road namakhosini solo tivaliwe leto sitalati kulandzela ukuthi uyakhiwa khona lapho. Umgwaco losuka khona eNgwenya ubheke khona kaManzini lapha emotshane nawuthanza nje ngenela kulomgwaco loqhamuka ngakhona eSpiki ungafiki kulawa amanyukelo akhona enkoyoyo kuneloli lefele ekhasi emgwacweni ivimbe umzila longasencele nawutanga khona eMbabane nje bashayeli abashayele ngalokukhulu ukucophelela khona lapho. Nasichubeka ngawo lo mgwaco sibheka khona kaManzini kumalagwane inkhungu ikhansa phansi kanti nawo umgwaco lapho umandi kakhulu siyakhuthaza nje kubo bashayeli abatawuhamba kuwo umgwaco noma batawusebenzisa wona umgwaco kumalagwane nyalo ekseni kwekuthi litubane labo alibe ngileli phansi kakhulu kulandzela kwekuthi siyavama kuba netingoti letinengi lapho nangabe umgwaco umandi noma kunetinkhungu. Ekhathi edolobheni kaManzini sihlolile nakhona tiba netemgwaco letilapha eNazarini tibohle ticisha nje tiphindze tiyivula. Kepha-ke umbutho wembube nesive ukhona lapho kusitabona abashayeli kuto leto tiba netemgwaco. Lomunye umgwaco lesiwuhlolile umgwaco losuka khona kelehele ubheke khona eBig Bend. Lo mgwaco loyo siyanaka kwekuthi emalayini ayaphela phansi noma-ke akasabonakali kuletinye tindzawo. Lo kwenta kwekuthi bashayeli kufanele ukuthi indlela lebashayela ngayo banakisise ikakhulukati emakoneni nakuwo emadvundvu khona lapho kuze ukuthi bangatikhanzi bathola tingoti letimatima. Ngale kwaloko Mnguni naye umbukeli imigwaco elive lakangwane iyahambeka ngaphandle kwawo nje kwekuthi imigwaco iyashelela. Kungaba kusisela yena umbukeli lusuku loluhle naloluphephile basetawusebenzisa yona imigwaco elive lakangwane.
Sibonga kakhulu Mdolo, isikhathi sakho lomhla ekuseni ne-traffic update losiphe yona le comprehensive levakala kahle siyabonga kakhulu. Nanani-ke sinifisela lusuku loluhle nisachuba umsebenzi welive sibahlole emakethe 2 minutes before 7 uma sibuya sithatha tindzaba lechamuka ngaphandle kwalapha eveni.
Membership bid on Monday. Late on Thursday, the Turkish parliament followed suit. Even before the session, the vote was largely seen as a done deal after President Erdogan gave the NATO bid his blessing earlier this month. Russia's aggression in Ukraine has pushed Finland and its neighbour Sweden into NATO's arms as they both seek a defensive pact. Finland's 1,300-kilometer-long border with Russia means that Moscow's border with NATO members will over double in length, one of the things Vladimir Putin has most sought to avoid. Ankara has been much more proactive in greenlighting Helsinki's bid than it has Sweden's. Political clashes with Stockholm have soured relations and stalled Sweden's accession to the defence alliance. Finns will head to the polls on Sunday, with Prime Minister Sanna Marin looking to hold on to power. Finland's parliament has already passed the vast chunk of paperwork needed in preparation for Turkey's approval, avoiding what could otherwise have been a months-long delay in the wake of Sunday's election and the electoral recess that follows. Helsinki now looks to wrap up the final details within weeks, well in time for a NATO summit in Vilnius in July.
Donald Trump has been indicted by a Manhattan grand jury after a probe into hush money paid to porn star Stormy Daniels, two sources said on Thursday, becoming the first former U.S. president to face criminal charges, even as he makes another run for the White House.
For days, Donald Trump's fate hung in the balance, and now a New York grand jury has voted to indict the former U.S. president for his alleged role in paying hush money to porn star Stormy Daniels, a move that makes him the first former president in U.S. history to be charged with a crime. In a statement, Donald Trump branded the decision political persecution and election interference at the highest level, calling it a witch hunt that will backfire massively on President Joe Biden. It's a sentiment echoed by fellow members of the Republican Party.
This is wrong. This is dangerous. We're skating on thin ice as a country right now. I think we may be heading on our way to a national divorce.
The indictment is still under wraps, so the charges are not immediately clear. But at the heart of the investigation is a $130,000 payment made to Stormy Daniels by Trump's ex-lawyer Michael Cohen on behalf of the former president. This in a bid to ensure the actress's silence over an alleged affair she had with Trump a decade earlier. The payoff happened just ahead of the 2016 election that sent Trump to the White House. In records, the transfer was falsely classified as legal fees, leaving investigators to figure out whether that constituted an election campaign violation. Reacting to the decision on Twitter, Stormy Daniels' lawyer said the indictment of Donald Trump is no cause for joy, adding that the news is proof that no one is above the law. New York's district attorney says he's coordinating the former president's surrender with his lawyers. The case comes as Donald Trump looks to make a return to the White House in 2024.
An American journalist has been detained on suspicion of spying for Washington. This was said by Russia on Thursday, drawing immediate condemnation from the West and calls for the Wall Street Journal reporter's release. Ivan Gershkovich, 31 years, is believed to be the first foreign journalist to be detained on suspicion of spying in post-Soviet Russia. And his arrest is a serious escalation in the Kremlin's sweeping crackdown on the media.
Evan Gershkovich is driven away from a Moscow court after appearing on charges of espionage. The 31-year-old Wall Street Journal reporter was arrested by Russia's Federal Security Service in the eastern city of Yekaterinburg, accused of collecting information related to military activity. Gershkovich's lawyer was denied access to his hearing. He denied his client had done anything wrong.
I wasn't allowed into the hearing. I contacted the Office for Criminal Cases, but they told me they didn't have this case. They've pulled the stunt many times. I can't say anything because I haven't seen the notice on charges filed against him, but I know for sure that my client would only be acting legally.
Gershkovich, who is of Russian descent, had worked in Russia since 2017. The Kremlin said Gershkovich had not been engaged in journalism when he was arrested.
This is the prerogative of the FSB. You already had a statement about this from the Federal Security Service. We have nothing to add. The only thing I can add is, as far as we know, he was caught red-handed.
In Yekaterinburg, where Gershkovich was arrested, a political scientist he interviewed said they had discussed only civil society and the Wagner mercenary group.
We did not discuss either the military-industrial complex or, if you will, state security. I'm not the person to talk to about this. I'm a political strategist. I'm not engaged in defense in any way. I'm in municipal politics, to put it bluntly. That's it.
Another U.S. citizen in Russia, former Marine Paul Whelan, was sentenced to 16 years in prison for spying in 2020. He insists he was set up. Washington described his trial as an egregious violation of human rights.
King Charles III called Russia's war in Ukraine a threat to Europe's democratic values in the first speech made by a monarch at the German parliament, but said allies like Germany and Britain can draw courage from their unity.
In a show of soft diplomacy Thursday, Britain's King Charles made a historic address to the Bundestag, the German parliament. The first reigning monarch to stand at this lectern, he said he hopes to renew the pledge of friendship between the UK and Germany.
In
the long and remarkable story of our two countries, there are many chapters yet unwritten. Let us fill these with the restless pursuit of a better tomorrow.
The king delivered most of his speech in German, showing deference to his hosts and nodding to his family roots. The British royals dropped their historic German family name and adopted Windsor during World War I due to anti-German sentiment. The UK and Germany may have been enemies during much of the first half of the 20th century, but since the end of World War II, they have been close allies. And today, the nations are Europe's top supporters of Ukraine against Russia's invasion.
The security of Europe has been threatened, and our democratic values threatened. Yet the world has not merely stood by. Even as we abhor the appalling scenes of destruction, we can take heart in our unity.
This is the first trip abroad for Charles since ascending the throne, after a visit to France was postponed due to ongoing protests over pension reforms. And it is the latest show of the UK's effort to rebuild European ties frayed by Brexit. Charles hailed the countless points of connection between the UK and Germany and appeared moved as he thanked the German people for their extraordinary kindness after the death of his mother, Queen Elizabeth.
Of each other's culture.
Pope Francis' health is stabilizing. According to a spokesperson from the Vatican, the pontiff was admitted to hospital yesterday with a respiratory infection, sparking fears for his well-being. But he has reportedly had a good night's rest and is now working from hospital. Nurses are optimistic that he could recover in time for Palm Sunday celebrations, but a discharge date has not yet been confirmed.
They sparked worldwide concern. Pope Francis's health is improving and he has resumed work from hospital, according to a Vatican official. But it is still unclear when the pontiff, who was hospitalized with a respiratory infection, will be discharged, and whether he will be well enough to take part in the busy week of ceremonies leading to Easter Sunday.
We're on the eve of what is the busiest week at the Vatican in terms of its public liturgies. Between now and next Sunday, Easter, the Pope is scheduled to preside on at least 7 public occasions. It's a big question mark whether or not Pope Francis will have the energy to do this and whether or not he'll even be out of the hospital.
Earlier in March, the Argentine pontiff marked a decade as the head of the Catholic Church. But this isn't the first time anxieties have been raised over his well-being. For the past year, he has been using a wheelchair and, last summer, admitted that he had to slow down. Viewed by many as a compassionate leader and reformer, his ill health has shocked the faithful.
Unfortunately, I heard the news about the Pope, and I'm sorry because he's a person for whom I have the greatest respect, especially in this time, his opinions. He seems to me a rational person. Indeed, unfortunately, he is one of the few rational people who want to send a message of peace, who pushes for peace. I hope he recovers as soon as possible and he can resume the celebrations.
Earlier on Thursday, the Pope posted a tweet thanking people for their messages and prayers. Despite various health issues over the years, he has said previously that resignation is not on his agenda, and that papal resignations, such as that of his predecessor Benedict XVI, should not become the norm.
Taiwan's president is in New York en route to Belize and Guatemala for a trip that is drawing the ire of Beijing. In particular, China has threatened retaliation if Tsai Ing-wen meet U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy.
Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen greets supporters as she arrives in New York on what has turned out to be a controversial stopover. It is Tsai's 7th trip to the US since she became president in 2016. Like those previous visits, it is not an official one because Taipei and Washington do not have formal diplomatic ties. But the US remains a firm ally of Taiwan, its support for the democratically ruled island bolstered in recent years, as Tsai underlined at a dinner attended by Taiwanese US residents.
We appreciate the U.S. government's commitment to Taiwan security under the Taiwan Relations Act. The more united the Taiwanese are, the safer Taiwan will be. And the safer Taiwan will be, the safer the world will be. We will work hand in hand with all our democratic partners to continue to firmly walk on the path of democracy and freedom.
Tsai is in New York until Saturday when she will visit Taiwan's diplomatic partners in Guatemala and Belize. She stops off in California on the way back, where she may meet House of Representatives Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy, having previously hosted his predecessor Nancy Pelosi in Taipei last August. China, which considers Taiwan a renegade province, protested against that visit. On Thursday, Beijing once again registered its discontent.
The U.S. and Taiwan authorities made arrangements for Tsai to engage in political activities in the U.S. and described it as a stopover, so as to upgrade official exchanges with Taiwan. This seriously violates the One China principle and gravely undermines China's sovereignty and territorial integrity.
And China made its presence felt on the streets of New York, with a large group of pro-Beijing protesters turning up to greet the Taiwanese president.
3 months after leaving for the United States in the final hours of his term, Brazil's ex-president Jair Bolsonaro returned home on Thursday to re-enter politics, complicating life for his successor and nemesis, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. The far-right ex-army captain, who skipped town 2 days before Lula's inauguration on January the 1st, arrived back in Brasilia on a commercial flight from Orlando, Florida, then headed to the headquarters of his Liberal Party, flashing a thumbs up as his motorcade pulled away.
Welcomed home by hundreds of adoring supporters. The former Brazilian president, Jair Bolsonaro, returned to Brazil after 3 months of self-imposed exile in the United States. And he got right back to politics, stopping for meetings at his conservative Liberal Party headquarters.
We have a majority within Congress, and we want the best for our country. Today the ball is in your court. I'm sure that you will lead Brazil to a safe haven. It's with great pride that I return.
Bolsonaro left to Florida after losing his bid for re-election to his left-wing rival, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. He says he will not lead the opposition now, but travel across Brazil to back his party's candidates in next year's local elections. But Brazilians have mixed feelings about his return.
The current government needs a strong, very strong opposition, because it's plunging the country into an unprecedented economic meltdown.
It is important for him to be in the country, for him to be held responsible for his actions, for the consequences of what his government has caused.
The homecoming is a high-stakes bet for Bolsonaro, who faces no fewer than 5 Supreme Court investigations. Firstly, for allegedly shielding family members from corruption charges and for spreading disinformation about COVID-19. He's also accused of spreading disinformation about Brazil's electronic voting system, as well as leaking classified information. And last but not least, he is accused of inciting a riot by his supporters who invaded the presidential palace, Congress, and the Supreme Court after his election loss. Without presidential immunity, numerous pending cases could also land him in lower courts, including for an allegation he tried to keep 3 million euros worth of jewelry given as a gift by Saudi Arabia. Police summoned him Wednesday to give a deposition for that case on April 5th.
In California, huge rainstorms scientists call atmospheric rivers, combined with a massive snowpack in the mountains, are expected to bring more flooding to the once drought-stricken state. Scientists warn climate change is behind the extreme weather.
Flooded roads and farmland in California. Atmospheric river storms and melting snowpack this winter have dumped trillions of gallons of water on a state which has suffered from a decades-long historic drought. Just what is an atmospheric river storm?
It's a regular storm system, but what makes it unique is that it taps into or is able to connect with lots of tropical moisture, whether it be in the Western Pacific Ocean or in the deep tropics. Up through February 28th, we had about 12 or more atmospheric rivers that hit California and the West Coast, way above average.
And what about melting snowpack? How's that contributing to all the water Californians are seeing?
We'll start with what is snowpack, and that's the amount of snow that's built up on the ground over the course of the winter after snowfall has occurred. And that is currently in record levels here throughout the Sierra Nevada. And we're now moving into our melt season, of course, which means that as that snowpack melts, it's going to feed our streams and rivers.
The storms and flooding have brought destruction and even death, but the water is also expected to replenish critical aquifers.
The positive impacts are almost remarkable, actually. The snowfall, heavy snowfall and atmospheric rivers, the combined nature of that have really increased reservoir levels dramatically, and also drought conditions, meaning the moisture in the soil or surface water in general, has it really increased.
Nature may level things out in the near term for Californians, but scientists say the world is getting warmer, causing snow to melt faster and rivers to rise further. And many Californians are weary of all the water, even if it makes fields fertile again.
I think that is one of the biggest concerns, is we are looking at a lot of rainfall, snow. The snow will melt and the wind, and we worry about the mudslides and the flooding.
The snowpack will be measured on April 1st because that's when it's typically at its deepest. Right now, it's hundreds of percentage points above average, with lots of spring melting to come. Laurel Bowman, VOA News, Washington.
The first Western tanks arrived in Ukraine this week, with dozens more expected in the coming months. Will it be enough to help Kyiv drive back invading Russian forces? There's a report.
British Challenger 2 tanks in Ukraine, ready to head into battle.
Thank you very much from Ukraine to the United Kingdom.
14 Challenger tanks are being sent to Ukraine. Britain's defence minister said Wednesday he could not speculate on any upcoming Ukrainian offensive.
But I think it is no secret that Ukraine is keen to start the process of rolling back Russian forces in the conflict. Obviously, the Russian forces are making almost no progress whatsoever.
Germany also confirmed it had delivered 18 advanced Leopard 2 main battle tanks to Ukraine, with Canada and Norway also dispatching several of their Leopards. European commanders say it could tip the balance in favour of Ukrainian forces.
They are facing this kind of tsunami of soldiers. So they are holding the front line. When they will be able to involve battle tanks like Leopard, they will be able to breach through and to look at counter-attacking.
Military experts estimate Ukraine now has a few dozen Western tanks. Is it enough to break through Russian defences?
At the moment, it's probably not enough, would be my hunch, but it's still fairly significant, you know, a battalion or two. Can form a spearhead.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said this week that his forces need more Western weapons before launching any counter-offensive.
The question is, can Ukraine protect, use and concentrate the Western weapons to such effect that they can break through better prepared Russian lines? It's not just about tanks, it's about the armoured infantry fighting vehicles, of which Ukraine has already got a lot of them come in, as far as I understand. So they accompany the tanks. It's also about the artillery pieces, the rounds that they need for their own guns, and the new artillery pieces that are coming in as well. So it's how you put the whole package together to achieve a combined arms breakthrough, if that's what you're going to do.
Ground conditions are changing. The spring thaw will turn frozen fields into quagmires.
It just makes movement and manoeuvre more difficult.
Western nations have pledged dozens more tanks and other heavy weapons. Slovakia and Poland are sending Ukraine their MiG-29 fighter jets. Russia, meanwhile, says it is ramping up ammunition production. British intelligence reported Thursday that Moscow is poised to launch another recruitment drive with the aim of signing up an additional 400,000 troops. Henry Ridgewell for VOA News, London.
The United States Food and Drug Administration has approved the non-prescription use of a drug that rapidly reverses the effects of overdoses of opioids, including fentanyl.
The U.S. Food and Drug Administration decided Wednesday to allow Narcan nasal spray, the leading version of the drug naloxone, to be sold directly in stores without a prescription. Narcan is the standard treatment for opioid overdoses, which are the leading cause of accidental death in the United States, mostly from fentanyl. Pharmaceutical fentanyl is approved for treating severe pain. Illicit fentanyl is produced cheaply from chemicals that U.S. law enforcement says come primarily from China through Mexico. That fentanyl is mixed with heroin or cocaine and is used in counterfeit pills. Dr. Nathan Kittle is an addiction specialist.
There's more varieties that are out there now, but made still to look like common brand name pain pills, and so they look like an oxycodone pill that someone would get from a pharmacy. And so sadly, what we're seeing is that a lot of people who maybe aren't used to using opioids either are thinking they're getting a pain pill from a friend, and it ends up being fentanyl.
That makes wider access to naloxone a life changer.
The more lay people, the more common people who aren't using opioids have naloxone and know how to use it, the more lives that will be saved, because you never really know when what you're taking is going to have fentanyl in it.
While the FDA decision clears nationwide use of naloxone without a prescription, it has been widely available here in Washington state since 2019, including emergency kits in schools and libraries. Former drug addict and current peer counselor Lupe Hurtado says greater access to life-saving drugs only works if they're given in time.
People feel ashamed about their drug use, thus they use alone. And when you're alone using, you can't save yourself from an overdose. Narcan saves people's lives, but someone has to give you Narcan. It's not something you can give yourself. So really just breaking that isolation pattern and accepting people as community members, which they are.
She says everyone should know how to identify an overdose and how to use naloxone.
You never know when it could happen or who it could happen to. You could be driving down the street, you could be on the bus, you could be waiting for the bus, you could be opening your store and, someone could be there in an overdose.
Public health advisor Brad Finegood says stopping fentanyl deaths means saving lives with naloxone and giving addicts the chance to start treatment.
Substance use disorder is a chronic medical condition. People are having struggles with their health, and it's treatable. And if we can provide the treatment supports that people need, then people are going to get better and heal.
Switching Narcan from prescription to over-the-counter status may take months. An FDA statement says it is encouraging the manufacturer to make the product available as soon as possible and at an affordable price. Natasha Mozgovaya, VOA News, Seattle, Washington.
Astronomers witnessed the birth of a Galaxy Plus. Damaged goods departed the International Space Station, and plans are set to seek life elsewhere in the sub-solar system.
An artist's rendition of a newly discovered galaxy's birth following the Big Bang that formed our universe. To astronomers reporting on the finding, the scene looks like what's commonly known as the spiderweb galaxy.
To see all the galaxies that are actually falling into the web of the spider, which is like the main galaxy at the center, which is going to become the dominant galaxy in the galaxy cluster in a few billion years.
The report's authors say this is the first detection of hot gas found in this still-forming cluster of galaxies, and the images they saw were some 10 billion years old. They made the discovery using Chile's Atacama Large Millimeter Submillimeter Array, or ALMA, just days after its 10th birthday. It marked the most distant detection of such hot gases to date. ALMA's 66 antennas give researchers from the 16-country intergovernmental partnership greater insight into gas temperatures in deep space, which they say will help them learn more about how galaxies form. Also this week, and just a little closer to home, a damaged cargo ship departed the International Space Station. Scientists discovered a coolant leak from the docked Russian Soyuz capsule, the second such leak in the past several months. Teams from NASA and the Russian space agency Roscosmos determined the capsule was not safe to fly with a crew. Roscosmos announced the Soyuz returned with hundreds of kilograms of cargo, including space experiments to be studied on Earth. Meanwhile, India's space agency successfully launched a rocket carrying dozens of satellites for UK-based communications company OneWeb. The mission was part of an agreement with the country's commercial arm, New Space India Limited. Finally this week, the Jupiter Icy Moons exploration spacecraft, more refreshingly known as JUICE, is almost ready for an 884 million kilometer trip to, well, Jupiter and its icy moons. And if there's life buried under that ice, JUICE may be the one to find it.
JUICE is not in itself designed to look for life on an icy moon. But if we're going to find life elsewhere in the solar system, chances are it's going to be underneath the ice, if there is an ocean underneath the ice on one of those moons.
JUICE is set to launch April 13th, and it will unfurl its 10 giant solar panels to assess its surroundings when it finally reaches Jupiter's orbit in 2031. Arash Erbasadi, VOA News.
28 minutes after 7 sasifike emaphethelweni etindzabeni tiqhamuka ngaphandle kwalapha eveni sitawabahlola etimakethe uma sibuya sikhulumisa tindzaba tetemidlalo with Fabrice Msonera.
Watch local TV on the go with the Eswatini TV app for only 20 emalangeni per month. Do the most with Eswatini TV app. Download from Google Play Store or App Store.
We're good together. Everywhere you go, MTN.
Minutes after 7. Well, it looks like today we have more than what we normally have with regards to time that's given to our sports update. A lot has been happening, especially in Eswatini. We saw Sihlangu go and participate go CAF tournament. But luckily we have Fabrice Msonera here, who is going to give us update on Dominic Gunene's squad. Fabrice, very good morning. Thank you so much for joining us, Nanamhla Kuseni. Talk to me about Sihlangu. The results that we saw that Sihlangu came back with are not the results that Linda Master, your colleague, had pronounced were going to be. Talk to me about this games. It's quite disappointing, so now we would see.
Even your energy is very low. I can see how
at the end of the day, when you bring the topic, then there were questions surrounding the selections of the head coach, Dominic Nene. We have to go to basics as well. You look at what has been happening pertaining to his contract as a coach. Because before I get to that question, look what's been happening. For the longest time in the country, you've got even the best squad we used to have in the early 2000s, in the early 90s. But we've always failed to win the COSAFA Cup. We've always failed to qualify for the Africa Cup of Nations. We've always failed to qualify for the FIFA World Cup. Then what does that mean? Let's just go to basics. Let's just get young boys, groom them from early as 8, 9, 10. Let's have a project.
You saying, sorry to cut you there, you saying, looking at Mr. Dominic Gunene's contract, you also alluding to the fact that we have the best squad ever, but still the results are similar to those ones from yesteryears. Are you taking a shot at Dominic indirectly that he failed the squad?
I wouldn't say we have the best squad ever. It's just
you expected more.
It's there. It's
so
what
who failed?
Have.
Who failed? Is it the squad or the coach?
It's a couple of things. It's a couple of things. For instance, you call a squad for the camp. We don't know what's happening with the camp. The country, they don't know anything about the camp.
Fabrice,
for 2 to 3 weeks. We've always talked about the issues of friendlies.
Yeah.
And whenever we play a friendly, our biggest friendly match is always against Lesotho. No disrespect to Lesotho. They're a country as well. They're competing.
Yeah.
But if you want to do best, compete against the best. I'm not trying to say let's be like Zambia, who whenever they're playing a friendly, they call Egypt or they call France. But let's just make
my question is, who's supposed to set up these big games, which again alludes to who is failing the squad?
Those who are in charge of the football in the country.
It's not the boys. It's not the boys.
Because even the coach, you can't just give him the money on the last day and tell him to go to Pick and Pay and do the shopping. Obviously, you're going to get everything wrong. Get me ready. Can I get everything on time?
Okay.
I'll give you an example. The next round of fixtures are in June. Look where we're standing on the log. 2 points in 4 games. Because if we had won that game against Cape Verde, we'll be talking about now, 5 points, Cape Verde will be 4 points. And then there was a hope of saying we will be qualifying as second best. But now, with 4 games played, I'm just going to have to break it for you. We have to go to Burkina Faso in June, and then we have to host Togo. Let's say we win against Togo, which is probably 5 points. And Cape Verde also can win against Togo because when we play Burkina Faso, Cape Verde will be playing Togo, and there will be 10 points. So it was our biggest chance. Now we have to play a game of hopes. Let's hope who and
Let's
who
hope Verde loses to Togo.
You see, that's what we don't want. This was the biggest win. And there's something I didn't like. I didn't like when you were away last week Friday. I know everyone is like, it was a better result, a draw. I don't like the spirit of saying, Sihlangu earning a fruitful point away.
Yeah.
I don't know why we could have won this game, both away and home. But there's a couple of things that are involved in whatever that is happening with this team. So when I'm looking at the group now, Burkina Faso, of course, 10 points out of 12 in 4 games. They stand a huge chance. Not even they stand, they will qualify. But the issue now remains between Cape Verde and Eswatini. And Cape Verde are very much ahead. They stand a chance to qualify for the Ivory Coast AFCON in January next year.
A game of hopes is the trajectory for Sihlangu moving forward. Let's talk about the MTN Premier League fixtures.
Day 19, Day 19 coming this weekend. And I think when you're coming from the international fixture and then you head to MTN Premier League game, any league game, there's always that expectation. Fans have been waiting. I'm looking at some of the games. You have to go on the third line where Tabanguru Kellys will be hosting Babaresa Highlanders at the Tabanguru Stadium. And then you have also to look at Prince of Wales. There will be a double header on Saturday. On Saturday tomorrow on the 1st of April, where first game Green Mamba, log leaders so far with 43 points. They will be taking on 7 Dreams. And then you've got Manzini Wanderers, where we know that they're having a tricky form. There have been issues about this club. Can they really be relegated? Can an effort be made to make sure that they don't get relegated? Because they are one of the crowd pullers club in the country. They host newly promoted Mahlenya in the second game at the Prince of Wales and Mbabane. But then you have also to go on the games that we played on the second season, of course, against Denver Sunderlands and Young Buffaloes.
Baba Swallows. This is a game, and I think it will determine can really the two sides compete against Green Mamba. Whoever gets 3 points will be chasing the title. Now, correction there, Green Mamba is 46 points, not really 43. 46 in 19 games. They have managed to win 15 games. And you look at the gap between them and number 2. So Young Buffaloes had to make sure that they keep, in the chase. 3 points, but you never know. 3 points, you can just chase your leaders until the last game of the season. Remember, they have to play 20. Each team has to play 26 games.
Buffaloes is facing Swallows next, right?
Yeah, Buffaloes is facing Swallows. I have a concern.
Biggest game.
Biggest game. I have a concern against Baba Highlanders because I feel like they have dropped. If you look at the gap between them and number 1, we're talking about 12 points. So I wouldn't really say there is much hope for them. But those 3 teams are competing. And look at down the battle for the relegation. Incoming 7 Dreams, Tabanguru Kedis, which I'm shocked because last season they finished 5th in the league. Now look where they're standing, number 13. You've got Manzini Wanderers. And if the issue of really relegating 2 teams remain, they're in a tricky position because 14 points, if they draw or they lose Tabanguru Kedis and manage to get points, anyone up there can make sure. So I'm really worried about Manzini Wanderers. With the remaining 7 games of the season, they have really to work hard to ensure they don't get relegated.
Yeah, but do you see Green Mamba winning their game? I think it's very important for Green Mamba to win their game to sustain that number 1 position.
Yeah, I see them winning their game, and I think, look, I don't know why we really don't follow what some of the coaches have been trying to do. If you look at what's happening at Green Mamba, it's a club. In every position, they're strong. In every position, be it goalkeeper-wise, defensive-wise, midfield-wise, and the experience of the strikers. You go to Buffaloes, the same quality. And then Baba Swallows, which I think is the only team that is keeping track with the 2 sides. If you look at also where they're standing, be it midfield-wise, defenders and everything. I mean, these 3 teams, they've got Buffaloes, Green Mamba, and Swallows. They've got close to 18 players who were part of the squad that went for Setlang Senligat. So it then says everything about the competition if they can maintain, the collapse in the national team.
Interesting. Let's move on to the DStv Premiership.
Just knowing that, there's so much positive mood in South Africa after that qualification against Liberia in the Africa Cup of Nations. Incoming Richards Bay, of course, at home in Durban, they'll be hosting the powerhouse Orlando Pirates.
Is that a definite win for Orlando Pirates?
I wouldn't really say a definite win, because there's been issues of consistency when you talk about the Buccaneers, but you have to hope that them chasing top 4, chasing the top 3, top 2, they have to maintain that good performance. Chiefs against Stellenbosch is also another game to look up to at FNB Stadium when you look at the 2 sides. But
you're not giving Chiefs a definite win there?
You would give them a definite win. There is also.
Are you a Kaizer Chiefs fan, Fabrice?
Can I reserve my comments on that? Because, but for me, I think the 2 games of the weekend for me, where I look at and say it's going to be a tricky one. I'm looking at Chippa United against Super Sports United there on Saturday, and then Golden Arrows against Sekhukhune United. Golden Arrows, I think, at home, they have been also another tricky side in Durban, so you have to expect them to, deliver against this Sekhukhune United, which I think they have got some of the most experienced players. We talk about the likes of former Chiefs Bernard Parker playing for Sekhukhune United, so it's going to be an exciting one. But if you look at log,
you didn't talk about that Super Sport United game.
I did highlight it against Chippa United. Yeah, I did highlight it where I think Super Sport United, if they want to maintain that number 2 position, because look at who is number 3, number 4. It's the Giants, it's Orlando Pirates and Kaizer Chiefs. So they have to ensure that they get 3 points and maintain that 2nd position. But the difference between them and number 1, Sundowns, they're just gone. They're just gone because the difference is that it's just huge. But it's quite an interesting league so far.
Would you say the season is over already?
Not really over, because it's a game of football, but how they have extended the lead, not only for this season, in the past season, it is quite amazing.
Yeah, you love being safe with your analysis, Fabrice. I'm asking you, is the season over based on Mamelodi Sundowns' consistent performance?
I'll give them the league. I'll give them
Yeah?
the league. Yeah, I'll give them the league. If you look at the gap between them and the rest of the teams, I'll give them the league.
Yeah, big news yesterday. I saw the news as reported by yourself and Linda Master Dlamini, Arsene Wenger and Sir Alex Ferguson being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Let's talk about their illustrious careers.
I think in the last probably 20 to 25 years or 30 years.
Yeah, for as far as I started watching football.
People have been talking about competition between Pep Guardiola and Klopp, Jurgen Klopp. I think it hasn't been really the best. If you look at these two odds and what they have done during their time between 1996 to 2010, the competition between the two sides, they deserve to be part of this Hall of Fame, which is an idea that Premier League that came with to ensure that those highlighted the Premier League for the last period of generation, they get a chance. Look at Arsene Wenger. Yes, he won 3 Premier League titles, but 828 Premier League games, and then you win over half
more
of
than
those
half,
games, more than half, 476. You finish invincible in 2004. You win 3 leagues. You get your team to the Champions League final. I think this was also one of the best moment of his career.
57.5 win rate is something.
It's something, really something for a team that you've coached since 1996 to 2018. So we're talking about 22 years in charge of a club. Wow. Some people were not born when he was in charge, and some people were just wondering how is he doing it. But this is why they called him Sir Alex Ferguson, because by the way, the name was just Alex Ferguson, but the idea of just calling him Sir Alex Ferguson, where he even actually have a stand within the Manchester United stadium, is the performance of this man. He only came when they had 6 trophies when he came in charge in 1986. He gave them 13 trophies as the manager of Manchester United, 810 games. Look at the wins. 528 wins. Yes. And then they are actually coaches who are yet to coach over 200 games. You're talking about the likes of Pep Guardiola. It's now that they are reaching the likes of 300 games. So it's going to be a long way for these guys to reach what these guys have done. Look at the winning rate, 65%. I mean, that's a credit when you're writing your tests, when you're writing your exams.
Could we make a case for Sir Alex Ferguson as the greatest coach of all time? Not based on merit, based on the things that he's been able to achieve.
Yeah, you could potentially put him there because you look at the amount of points he collected. You look at the number of trophies.
Hardware,
hardware. Your club
rate.
I mean, your Pep Guardiola. They are yet to get what.
And you look at the league as well. I think it's very important to look at the league with which he coached.
Because we're talking about, Pep Guardiola so far has got 4 or 5 Premier League titles. Klopp has got 1. And this man managed to get 13 trophies.
Yeah. What about Jose Mourinho? Just highlight that a little bit for me, because I've also seen the rivalry between Jose Mourinho and Pep Guardiola growing up. Yeah.
I like to think he's a winner mentally when you talk about serial winner.
Mentally, yeah.
Yeah, but then sometimes he's failing to provide that in the field of play because he's quiet now. If you look at what Roma is doing, yes. But
I think it's unfair to judge him based on now. I just mean as a career, because we just looked at their illustrious careers. We could make a case for Arsene Wenger during his last...
He's somewhere there, because if you talk about Hall of Fame, I don't think really at some point he'll be included. Not to say I have anything against him.
We are going to bet money on live TV. He will be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Let's move on to the... have we looked at the EPL fixtures?
No, we haven't.
No, we have to look at the English Premier League fixtures. Hopefully we'll have a graphic up real soon. There we go. Manchester City versus Liverpool. I will assume that's going to be the biggest game for the weekend, but also Arsenal versus Leeds. And as much as, people can say Leeds is going to be a walkover for Arsenal, but, Arsenal has that pressure to sustain that cadence up there at the top of the log.
This is where it gets interesting because when you talk about Manchester City and Liverpool, 2 to 3 seasons ago, these two teams were fighting for the title. But now, one team is fighting to be number 4, which is Liverpool. Manchester City is trying to catch up with log leaders Arsenal. Game of the weekend for me, and then it's a must-win for Arsenal. And I think...
Arsenal game of the weekend for you?
No, City and
City
Liverpool.
Versus, okay.
Yeah, and I think for City, a draw it's not a solution. They have to win because Arsenal at home, 90 to 99% chance of them winning that game against Leeds, it's very high. Yes, there is the absence of Saliba, who's still out, and Ketia, but good news, Partey is doing well,
Jesus
and everyone
back.
is doing well. Jesus is back,
Yeah.
so expectation is high. But for Liverpool, who've got also Nuno and Luis also back against Manchester City, where they don't have Erling Haaland at home, yes. It's going to be a tough game, but I think for Arsenal, it's the moment to say, for me, I was thinking actually if the Arsenal game was supposed to be played first, so that they extend their lead now to 11 points, because now they are 69 points. They have to get to 72 points, and then they just sit back and watch the game between Manchester City and Liverpool. I mean, look at the standing, and then.
I can't believe Chelsea is down there at number 10. But anyway, I want us to focus on the top 4.
Look at number 6. The reason why the game is going to be quite difficult. Look at number 6, Liverpool. They have 2 games in hand, but if they are to keep up with the Champions League spot, remember they are actually looking for that spot. They have to make sure that they win the game against Manchester City tomorrow, because
but they remain on number 6.
The only teams that are sure that they'll be playing Champions League next season is the top 3: Arsenal, Manchester City, and 100%. Manchester United. For Spurs, yes, I can tell they have played more games than Manchester United. Manchester United have got 2 more games in hand, but for me, the number 4 spot between Spurs, Newcastle United,
but
and Liverpool.
How do you say Manchester United is guaranteed when they are only just 1 point ahead of Spurs?
They have a chance because of the games in hand they have to play. Remember, they have played 26 games, so they have got that chance to say, if we can win the 2 games, then we're
Newcastle has played 26 games. Liverpool has played 26 games. Brighton has played 25 games.
But look at this. If you talk about Newcastle, because they have dropped in terms of performance since the beginning, or since the conclusion of the FIFA World Cup, I haven't seen them really being themselves.
Yeah, but looking at the fact that they're playing Manchester United this weekend, I think they're going to play at their utmost level, best.
Look at this. You've got Manchester United, they are 50 points, 2 games in hand. Let's say they win them, they've got 56 points. You've got Newcastle United, 26 points, 47. If they win them, 43 points. I mean, 53 points.
Yeah.
So you have to put them in that position. But look at Liverpool, 42 points. Even if you're there to win their 2 games in hand, 48 points. They don't hit 50. So
I think that the next coming weeks are going to be very interesting with you sitting there when we look at Manchester United's position. When we look at the games that they have, the upcoming games, I'm not too sure. I'm just not too sure they will play in the UCL.
I think for Spurs, I had loved if they didn't really,
if
departed.
they make it?
No, if they didn't have an arrangement where Antonio Conte has left, they are going to maintain that top 4. But I'm not sure now, when they have an interim coach, but with Conte gone, I'm not sure if they can really maintain that 4th position.
But basically, 10 minutes before 8 a.m., I'm afraid we are not going to be able to talk about La Liga fixtures and La Liga standings, I suppose.
It's just 2 teams that are fighting for the title. It's Barcelona and Real Madrid, and Barcelona so far is leading, but we have to wait for the remaining 11 to 10 games. But the 2 teams have a chance to win the league.
Yeah, awesome. Lovely. Thank you so much, Fabrice, for joining us. Always lovely having you here to give us your analysis on sports. Just 10 minutes before 8, let's go for an ad break. When we return, we speak to Macmillan, who are the main sponsors for Brains on the Go season finale. And just, they've been the longest serving sponsors for the program for the past over a decade, I believe. Don't go away.
Pay your TV license quickly and easily with MTN Momo. Simply dial *007 *3 hash and select option 8 for TV license. Enter your national ID number as your reference and the amount you wish to pay. Then enter your PIN to confirm your payment. Once your payment has been made, you'll receive a confirmation SMS of your payment. If you're a first-time payer, you get another SMS for your TV license. So legalize your entertainment from the comfort of your home. Pay your TV license the easy and convenient way with MTN Momo.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
8 minutes before 8 a.m. njengoba besishilo ke nakuqala luhlelo ukuthi sitawujoyinwa baka-Macmillan who have been sponsoring luhlelo lwe-Brains on the Go lwalapha ekhaya Eswatini TV for 14 years today, which is, you know, a very long time. Sinaye ke ngoba sihlongonyane who is the sales and marketing manager ka-Macmillan, kusipha nje i-background yokuthi what really attracted them to, you know, sponsor nalolu hlelo lolukhulu nakangaka njengoba nje sakuyo ifinale lamuhla. Mr. Sihlongonyane, siyabonga kakhulu ukuthi ukhona kuvuka namhla kuseni kutoba nathi elihlelweni. Yeah, siyakuvusela.
Siyavusela Mngoni, siyavusela nababukeli bonke emakhaya.
Yeah, siyabonga Mr. Sihlongonyane, kusipha nje i-background yenu nekusebenzisana na Brains on the Go 14 years akusiye umdlalo, and you know, I think for Eswatini TV Sibusiso Bhembe uhleli lapho itolo, the producer of the show, Nompumelelo Dlamini umchumanisi wesiteshi naye uhleli lapho. Both of them, they shared the same sentiments in, you know, kubulala emabhodlela ku-Macmillan, kubonga ukuthi solo nibabambe ngetandla kuchubeka nabo. Yini le nto ukuthi nibabambe ngetandla for 14 years?
Okay, siyabonga kakhulu Mngoni. Ngicabanga ukuthi umuntu angacala ngekubonga khona Eswatini TV, baphathi ne-staff sonke sakhona. Kufake ikhathi bona boss Sibusiso Bhembe, bona Mpumelelo bophumzile nabo bonke ngoba ngicabanga ukuthi awade Mngoni ukuthi lo hambo mangabe nihamba nibambene ngetandla luphumelela ngalokuthi nalo lomunye uphethe kahle nawe umphethe kahle. So akusiyo nje i-Macmillan Glory kuphela, but ke naye Eswatini TV lokho sichubeke sihambe naye sho siphethe kahle. So nguloko ikakhulu lokusendisa hamba kwazakabala.
Yeah, ngifuna ke ungiphe ukuthi nisachubeka kanje nalo lo hlelo kube ngomaphi ama successes leni benawo kakhulu naloko ukuthi nje ku-aligna njani vele lo hlelo ngoba sayothi lihlelo leli ihambisa embili temfundo kubanvana nasathi ke Macmillan nje nawuthi nje Macmillan emvini weSwati, the first thing that clicks engqondweni yakhe temfundo. Kusipha nje leyo relationship yenu in alignment with your mandate as Macmillan, as well as, you know, the working relationship during the past 14 years.
Okay, siyabonga kakhulu Mngoni. Ngicabanga ukuthi kwekucala nje mina ngakuvetha kulokuthi singu-Macmillan vele sinemntwana enhlitweni yethu. Ikakhulu umntwana lo sesikolweni. Siyabonga kumhlaphilangeni nahulumende ukuthi bantwana bonke cishe sekwaba ngumthetho ukuthi vele babe sedikolweni. So sinaloyo muntu kuko konke ke lesikwendako singaphane siyibusiness yebo, kodwa ngetulo kwawo konke siyipartner khona even naseswatini lebambisene nemntana, lebambisene nathishela, lebambisene nelitiko letemfundo ukuthi imfundo indlondlobale. Ngiko nje ama-slogan zethu athi advancing learning, and we also believe in helping curious minds achieve great things. So ke Brains on the Go uvela lapho ke mhlambe umuntu angakafika ngasho ukuthi siyathi ukuthi tingaphana ngitina lo umsebenzi ekuthiwa noma ngitina insayeya yekubuyisela esiveni. Utalwa kanjalo ke Brains on the Go ukuthi nathi singu-Macmillan sinensayeya yekubuyisela esiveni kuloko sivele sisekele ngako. But ke awubuyiseli noma ngoba ubuyisela mhlambe la kulokuhambisana thina sikhethe kubuyisela kulokuhambisana nemfundo. Sithi sibuyisele esiveni sibe sisita umntwana lapha kumnike emathuba ukuthi abe nelikusasa lelikhanyako kusasa. Utelo we Brains on the Go soneminyaka lelishumi nane, shothi 14 years. Siyajabula nje lokuthi kulo 14 years utalwa njani Brains on the Go. Utalwa ngekuthi kune tikolo siyathi ukuthi atifanani mhlambe ngetinzawo letikide unetikolo tikubomba abani ngiyabe kusekhathe edolobheni, netikolo etise ngathi kusemaphandleni. Kodwa lesikunaka lokufana nako la ngilokuthi labantwana noma lomunye angede aphathe esikhaftini esinaphaloni mhlambe lomunye aphathe lesinaye bonke banenshisekelo banemaphupho lo mnyadla esidonono uyabona lo mnye bonke banemaphupho ukuthi nabo kusasa babe mhlambe njengeMnguni, babe the next prime minister, babe the next whatever, banala maphupho. Akunenzaba ukuthi usuka kalashameshame lo mntwana. Utalwa kanje lo Brains on the Go ukuthi siyabona abantwana bonke banengcondo, labanengi abantwana banengcondo, which is the brains side of leli gama. Brains on the Go banale ingcondo, bayafisa, bayacabanga. Sithi ke mane ukhanza ukuthi labanye ikakhulu uma sebayocetha e-high school abakhoni ukuthi bacetse kahle noma baphase kahle ngoba one mhlambe lo munye khansi ubede lo tamphathela school fees lo munye mhlambe wabade la tamsita ngekuthi ammotivate nje amkhuthade kahle ukwazi nama motivational speakers ethu ahamba la madolobheni ngesinye isikhathi ukwazi akakhona kuyale sithi hayi asesende lihlelo lutawuhamba emadolobheni yebo but nale maphandleni yini injongo yayo lenkulu kuniketa umntwana ikakhulu at form 4 level before ayeka form 5 athi ayeka form 5 sibe sekuhlanyile sifuna ukuhlanyela kumniketa lithuba lekuthi naye a-expose ke atiwe ngumhlaba to lithuba lekuthi naye noma ngabe unedidzingo letimenta angafunzi kahle khumbula sithi singaqiniseki imfundo sitivale leto dikhadla naleto simfake nalolu coze ethi vele ungaba ngu the next doctor ungaba ngu the next business person so nguloko ke ikakhulu lokwendisa dala brains on the go.
Siso alluded ekuthenini nisebenza eshiselweni kule season le engabe nisebenze kanjani vele esifundzeni saseshiselweni, how has been your experience there kusebenzisana nato quality semaphandleni eshiselweni?
Okay, siyabonga kakhulu Mnguni. Eshiselweni ngosiyamba siphethe ngethandle lithokomele besinetikolo leti ngama-21 21 schools and umuntu mhlambe sangathathela ithuba nje noku-congratulator leti ngu-3 that made it to the top 3 ngongweni Ingwane Central High School kanye nayo Inyamane High School. Yes, ukuthi ibongela ngito nje namhla leti yocutselana leti tikolo leti kodwa ke tongela leti nyedabethi khona. So sisebenze kahle sikhanze ukuthi eshiselweni tikolo letinye la khona mhlambe nemigwaco ungathi ufika kamadima khona mawufika khona kodwa labantwana still bayafisa kufunza njengalo sembabane. Labantwana still banemaphupho lamakhulu, labantwana still banengcondo. So kusijabulise kakhulu lokho kube ligoli empeleni ukuthi uyathi silule isandla sethu sifinyelele nakunamntwana losengungweni high school. Mhlambe nje Mnguni mangathi awungise engungweni encenye
ungaseshiselweni mina nje lenzaba nawutibala ngidathi tonke kahle hlele into ngijabula kakhulu
yeah siyabonga. So kakhulu basiphethe kahle nabotishela omkhulu basiphethe nje kahle kakhulu nalabantwana bakhombisa
imfundo lapha REO. Yes, obvious. Siyabonga kakhulu Mr. Sihlongonyane. I think we've come to the end of our interview ngenzaba yesikhathi but nje I think ukuthatha lelithuba sesehlelana I think ne department yaka marketing itakujabulela lokuthi nje usithembise lo ukuthi this relationship will be sustained you know for another 14 years siqhubeke sisite abantu abesikole labasemaphandleni even la kangwane.
Mawuthi umntwana ntamsela icathulo Mnguni ukumtelo wakhe kufuna ukuthi usukuthembile ukuthi utawuhola so nathi singasho ukuthi subject to availability of funds Nkosi yami ngeke sibalahle abantwana beMaswati ngayo iBrains on the Go show umnyaka lo nje sikufise kuya kamanzini sitawubuka makamagbalance sitholani masithola noma kanjani sitawuphinde sichase sive sakangwane.
Thank you so much Mr. Sihlongonyane. Mangoba Sihlongonyane, Sales and Marketing Manager kaMacmillan, just giving us an overview of the working relationship lababenayo nesiteshi Eswatini TV kanye ke netikolo letikhona lapha even letahlukene totonke tigodzi deliver. We have come to the end of our program. Lomuhla season finale ye Brains on the Go will be taking place and Eswatini TV will give you the broadcast evikini lelitago. We are wishing them umsebenzi lomuhle basawusebenta lamuhla nanabe ke mbukeli sifisela impela sonto